Sweet. Alrighty. Well, like I said, I've got a question from the audience.
A question from the audience.
Actually, it's a question from one of our clients. It's
Oh.
well, both. It's our client and also someone that commented on one of our prior episodes. And we already answered it, but it's actually a really good question, so I figured we'd do a response to it. So they say, a private treating doctor has stated he is unable to help with SSDI. However, he is and has been helping with short-term disability and long-term disability. What would be a good step to take for getting a medical source statement and or residual functional capacity assessment? So he's basically saying that he's seeing his doctor, and his doctor is not willing to fill out an MSS, which is a medical source statement, and he wants to have the best chance of approval, so he's just asking, what do I do about this?
Yeah, it's funny because this person might have asked his case manager, because I had a question from one of our case managers this week. One of our clients is wanting to know this. So obviously, if you had your choice between a statement regarding short-term disability or long-term, you'd want long-term. I mean, short-term, keep in mind that the definition of disability for Social Security is 12 consecutive months or a condition that's expected to result in death. So you'd want long-term. But I don't think that's what you're actually asking for. If they won't do a medical source statement, and a lot of doctors won't, I don't know if we've talked about it before, I think we have. A lot of doctors think that if they give an opinion in a case, then somewhere down the road, and they know that judges are involved in the process somewhere down the road, they don't want to have to do what they have to do in a personal injury case or a workers' comp case, which is take off half a day and go downtown or go to some courthouse to testify.
Yep.
They don't want to have to do that because doctors make a boatload of money, and half a day is half a boatload of money. They don't want to do that. And so anytime they can decline getting involved, they will decline getting involved. However, and I try to tell any physician or therapist or psychiatrist or psychologist, any of them who ask me if we're on a one-on-one basis, I tell them, I've been doing this now for 35 years. I have never, ever, ever, ever heard of a treating provider being called either on the phone, either to file a written deposition, and certainly out of here, never called, never. I've never seen it happen to where they're called to justify or discuss the opinion that they put on a medical source statement or on a form. So that's not even on the radar. There's nothing on the horizon that says a provider would ever have to take time out of their schedule to follow up on an opinion that they've given. A lot of times that doesn't carry any weight with these folks because they know that workers' comp requires it and personal injury requires it.
Yeah.
So in that case, what I always ask our clients to do is, okay, they don't want to fill out a medical source statement, write a narrative. And a narrative can be as short as a paragraph or as long as a page, but never even longer than that. And they can handwrite it if they want to, or they can dictate it to, one of their medical staff. But they don't have to actually fill out our form, which gives degrees. It is the RFC, by the way. She said this claimant or this client said, how about them providing an RFC or something like that? An RFC is residual functional capacity. It is our MSS, our medical source statement. It's the same thing.
It's like the same thing.
Lifting, carrying, standing, walking,
Yep.
Posturals, which are stooping, crawling, crouching, manipulatives, reaching, handling, fingering, special senses, seeing, hearing, feeling, those kinds of things. The RFC, which Social Security lives and dies by. That's your rating, by the way. That is what they believe. That's what you can do. And our medical source statements follow that exactly. Our medical source statement is exactly like a residual functional capacity evaluation. And that's why it's so important, because we get specifics on a medical source statement. How much can they lift and carry? 10 pounds. Well, the Social Security doctor said that they could lift or carry 20 pounds. Well, their doctor, who they've seen for 15 years, says they can only lift 10. I'll let a judge weigh which one's more credible. the doctor who never seen my client and is looking at a paper file, or the doctor who sees my client, several times a year and has for a decade or more. I'll let the judge decide which one's more credible, which one's more believable. But the residual functional capacity, that's what the medical source statement follows. Now, if the doctor won't do that, or a therapist won't do that, and a lot of them, like I said, they won't, then a narrative is the next best thing. In many ways, I prefer a narrative because it's not checked boxes, it's not circled answers, it's literally typing out or handwriting out. Mr. Jones is not capable of even sedentary work. I believe the problems with his back would preclude him from being able to complete an 8-hour workday, much less a 40-hour work week. X-rays show, moderate to severe degenerative disc disease in the L4, L5.
Yeah.
It's just a narrative. It would take them 5 minutes to compose the kind of narrative that I'm talking about, and it goes such a far way. It is absolutely invaluable to your case. So I think maybe I answered the question.
Yeah. And
I kind of got on a roll.
Yeah, circling. So yeah, medical source statement, and then circling back to what he was saying about short-term disability and long-term disability. For anyone that doesn't know, a lot of times your employer will have a separate disability
Policy.
program.
Yeah.
It's short-term disability. You get on that, and then it generally turns into long-term disability if you're expected to remain out of work. That is completely different from Social Security, and it doesn't affect it as far as eligibility goes.
And that's what I was going to say. The next thing I was going to say is that it has no impact whatsoever on whether it helps your case, doesn't do anything to your case, or hurts your case. It doesn't help your case. It doesn't hurt your case.
Yep.
It doesn't do anything to your case. Social Security, they're really finicky about their criteria because a lot of people come in. We get veterans all the time.
Yeah.
I'm 100% VA disabled. Okay, I mean you obviously have some things going on that are pretty significant. And as horrible as it is for me to say this, to Social Security, that 100% rating, that's how they feel about it. They won't roll their eyes about it, but they're not going to get caught up in, if they got 100% disability, they have to be disabled. They'll say basically, well, we're Social Security, and our ratings are significantly different from the way VA rates, the way short-term disability policies or long-term disability policies rate, the way that workers' comp rates. All of those things, they can be considered, but if you're banking your case on, well, hey, I'm 46% injured on my workers' comp, and I'm 50% disabled with VA. They gave me a short-term disability. I've been on that for 3 months. It's going to go nowhere with Social Security. They'll consider it, and I guess in a really small way it might help, but no, not really. I mean, it's something that they have to consider, but they don't put any value on other agencies and other programs. I mean, Social Security, it's its own monster, and we've talked about this before. When you get to percentages like workers' comp, if you lost use of an arm, you'd be 25% disabled, and you'd get some kind of benefits for that. VA, the way that they factor and figure percentages and disability, and they're all 10s, but 10, 20, 30, there's no such thing as a 36% VA rating. But their ratings are the strangest because you could be 40% disabled in PTSD and have a 20% rating in tinnitus and have a 60% rating in chronic knee problems, and their overall rating is 50%. That math doesn't math. Well, welcome to the VA. The way that they rate things is it's a ridiculously complicated, overly complicated rating system. But once again, Social Security, you're disabled or you're not.
Yeah, there's no rating.
That's it.
Yep.
There is no in between. So and that's another reason why the duration is very important. Also, if just consider you had a really, really bad car wreck, multiple fractures. You broke both your legs, broken arm, your wrist is all messed up. You even smacked your head, and had a closed head injury. And then 3 months later, all your fractures are healing, your head's clearing up, and you're starting to remember the accident, things that you couldn't do right after it. And then, 6 months later, you're walking, you're using your arm again, stuff like that. Horrible, nasty car accident that when you tell people about it, they're wincing because they're feeling, so much pain for you. And then 6 months later, to Social Security, condition hasn't lasted 12 consecutive months. If you're doing this well at 6 months, the next 6 months are probably going to be even better, and therefore you don't meet that criteria. So it's just really important to remember, Social Security, its own monster, its own animal. You either are disabled or you're not.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. With the only time that I can really think that short-term disability would cross paths with Social Security disability it's not a technical problem. It's not a technical eligibility problem. But if someone is receiving short-term disability, then kind of the elephant in the room is, when do you think you're going to be able to go back to work?
Right.
Because short-term disability is short-term,
right,
and Social Security disability is only long-term. Now, if it's a situation where the client has been out of work for 3 months or 4 months and they're on short-term disability, and you ask them if they think they're going to be able to go back to work anytime soon, and they say, absolutely not. My doctor said I'm out for, I haven't even scheduled my hip replacement yet. I'm going to be out for well over a year.
Right.
Then that's completely fine.
Sure.
But it is kind of this elephant in the room where, okay, well, you're on short-term disability. Is it only going to be short-term, or is that going to have to turn into a long-term thing? And that's I could compare that to unemployment benefits as well, to where it's not, if you're receiving unemployment, it doesn't technically immediately disqualify you from Social Security disability, but it's kind of like the way that you qualify for unemployment is by telling the agency that you're seeking work and you're trying to go back to work.
Not just seeking. I am ready and willing. You have to attest that I am ready and willing to work.
So it creates this elephant in the room. It's like, okay.
It's a huge elephant in the room. And, you say that sometimes it's not disqualifying, and that is the exact right statement. Sometimes it isn't disqualifying. But you get a judge who actually says, and it's happened before, and I wish it hadn't, but it has, to where the judge is like, well, Mr. Jones, I see that you told the state agency that you're ready and willing to work on your unemployment, and you've drawn, 13 weeks of that, correct? Yes, Your Honor. And then you signed up for disability and you said that you're unable to do any kind of work on a sustained basis. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. Which one of us were you lying to?
Yeah.
Were you lying to the state agency when you said that you were ready and willing to work? Or were you lying to Social Security when you said, I can't do any kind of work? Because those two things are mutually exclusive. One cancels out the other. So you got to be very careful with that. Like I said, I've seen it happen exactly like that, by the way. The judge was that brash with my client. I haven't seen that in a while. But, a few years ago, there was a particular judge that, if there were unemployment earnings, unemployment benefits in the file, we were like, be prepared and don't get mad and don't lash out, because the judge is going to be quite harsh on you. And he might even ask you if you were lying then or are you lying now. And there is a way around that. And ready and willing is a whole lot different than ready and able.
Yeah,
So,
willing to try.
Yeah.
Versus,
Yeah, and that you stole my thunder, because that is the word. Absolutely, can you draw unemployment benefit? Well, if you're destitute, if you've lost your job, and here's your choice: try to preserve the integrity of your Social Security claim by not saying anything that might be damaging, or get a weekly check from unemployment to feed your family. Let's see. How many people are going to choose, I don't want to do anything to upset my disability claim, or how many people are going to feed their family? And there's nothing wrong with going in there and say, yeah, I got unemployment, and I even went to an interview or two. Now, do I think I could have maintained work if I got the job? I didn't get the job, by the way. But if I got the job, do I think I could have maintained work? Absolutely not. But I was willing to try. Try is the magic word. Kind of got off subject, but yeah, that's, that is definitely an elephant in the room. And getting back on subject, so many different programs out there, different criteria, and some of them seemingly at odds with Social Security, like unemployment, receiving disability. It is seemingly at odds, and you are going to have to have a good explanation for it, because it is seemingly at odds.
Yeah, and then so going back to another program, to VA benefits, because we're talking about medical source statements, and the whole reason we started this conversation is basically, what do you do if your doctor's not willing to fill out a medical source statement? And you said a lot of doctors are not. It seems like, at least for a lot of clients that I talk to and a lot of cases that I look at, it seems like VA doctors, a lot of the times they won't fill out an MSS. Right. Is there a reason for that, or is it?
I don't know. It could be a policy, like in the state that we're in. We are real big. If our clients have no money whatsoever and they haven't had treatment, we are always, you got to go to the health department. You have to get treatment somewhere. That's just, you got to do that. That is paramount to a successful claim. And if you don't have any money, how do you do that? Well, you can go to a health department. And in our state, the health department, and I've talked to the bigwigs, and it was not a pleasant conversation many, many years ago, probably 18 years ago. We're not filling out these things. Quit sending them to our doctors. What do you mean you're not filling them out? This is going to help your patient. And if we win your case, by the way, they're going to be able to pay you. It's like, they'll get medical coverage. Well, it's our policy not to do that. And got a big lecture about, we don't want to get involved and blah, 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 blah. And these are, since the state employs these doctors, well, I guess the VA might have the same kind of thing. They have a policy. I think the policies are garbage, especially, when you're talking about the Hippocratic Oath. You're all about your patient. Well, if you're all about your patient and your patient really, really needs to win a disability claim, not so they'll get that monthly check, ladies and gentlemen, because we've talked about this before. 99% of my clients, when they talk to me about what they really want to win their case for, is for the medical coverage. Okay, well, if you're all about helping your patient out, and you took an oath when you got your medical license that that's what you were all about, then help them out by filling out this form. Take the 5 minutes that it will take you to circle the boxes in the form that we fill out, or take the 7 minutes that it'll take you to either dictate a 2-paragraph letter or just handwrite the thing yourself. I wish I could say that there's a great reason, other than their fear of being subpoenaed to a court proceeding, which, again, has never happened. I've never heard of it, never seen it, and I've been in this for, over 3 decades. But other than that fear, which is unfounded, I just don't know why they don't want to cooperate with us on that. And a lot of them do. And if any doctor stumbles upon any of these things and you do complete a medical source statement, thank you. It goes such a long way to prove your patient's case. Yeah,
especially since these doctors they're writing what they already agree with. It's not like they have to figure anything else out. Yeah. If they're seeing their patient, they already know what the symptoms are. They already know the impairments. That's right. They just have to put it into writing.
Yeah, it's simple. On our form, there's like a little, some lines for a paragraph after you've circled 10 pounds. They can lift 10 pounds. They could stand for maybe 2 hours in an 8-hour workday, other kinds of limitations. And there's a little paragraph to, explain your answers. And a lot of the doctors will put, see my treatment notes. And you know what? That is perfect. That's fine. Thank you. Now what you've said is, here, Judge, here's the doctor's assessment. And if you want to see if this doctor's assessment is supported, well, go to their medical records, which are also going to be in the file. And it's just it basically wraps it up, puts a bow on it, gives it to the Social Security Administration.
Yep. And then, so last thing, just going real quick back to the VA VA clinics. If they won't fill out an MSS, do you just ask them to write a narrative letter the same way as other providers?
Yeah, a short narrative.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if they won't even do that, then we just do the best we can with the case.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're a younger individual, which Social Security's definition of a younger individual is 49 or younger, if you're a younger individual, it makes the case tremendously harder to win. Tremendously. Not just, oh, it's a little bit, yeah. Oh, we didn't get a medical source statement. No big deal. You're 46 years old and we don't have a medical source statement. Pulling teeth. We're going to have to be pulling teeth. I'm going to have to make an argument in front of this judge or in front of the Social Security Administration that is just airtight. And most medical records aren't airtight.
Yeah.
It's so. Yeah, if we can get a medical source statement, I just can't overemphasize how important it is to a case.
Cool. Okay, we'll end it there.
Cool.
If you have a question about your disability case, drop it in the comment section below, and we will do our best to answer it in the next episode.